Good morning, my friends. How are you today? I hope you're having a good week so far and you had a good sleep last night. You woke up and you're feeling rested and ready for a beautiful sunny day, I hope. I hope you got your stretches out and you brushed your hair and washed your face and brushed your teeth and had some breakfast, and now here you are. So let's say hello with our heart. You can hear Sloan downstairs. Hello, my friends. I love you and I miss you and I can't wait to see you. And to all my friends in the rainbow, hi. We're all connected through our lessons, and today we are looking at rocks, and I have a few things I want to do, so it will be fun. All right, so let's start by looking at our calendar. We are in the month of May, and we're in our last full week of May. So today is Wednesday, May 27th. And you can see that next week we switch our months. So what month are we going into? Next week we're going into the month of June. Yeah. And June's cool because in June we switch out of the season of spring and into the season of summer. So we're getting there. We're getting to a new season and summer soon, and the days are getting warmer and longer. And yeah, so in my weather journal, I just put the sun for today, and hopefully it's sunny there. It's getting warmer here, and I have a little bit of precipitation, just like one drop in my jar. And I think what it is that the days are hot, but at night it gets cool, and it's cool overnight. And in the morning, as the temperature rises, a little bit of moisture forms on the glass, and that causes one or two droplets in there. So in my weather book, I would just put a tuff or trace amounts of precipitation or water. All right, so rocks. I have a very cool book. It is called The Pebble in My Pocket. And I would really love to read it to you over a lesson because it has such great information about rocks and the formation of the earth, and it's a really great book. And if we were in class, I would definitely read it to you and take time reading it to you. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to start with that. I'm going to just try to let this be one whole long video. But if it's too long for you, please just pause it, take a break, come back. You don't have to do the whole thing at once, okay? You have like lots of time to do it, no rush the whole week. So, but I wanted to include this story in this lesson because I think it's a little too advanced for the first years, and I thought my second and third years would really enjoy it. Okay, so just before we do that, actually, let's just look at a little bit of the rock classification. I'm just going to move back a little bit. That I found. So this is a material that I found online, and I've never used it before in class, but I thought it was really cool. I'm going to send it to you, and there's different parts. There's parts where you can look at different rocks and classify them into the three categories. There's bigger pictures of them, and there's a lot more information, so please have fun looking at it. But I just thought for today I would just look at three basic ones and use this sheet. So this one you could obviously cut all the way up into pieces and then do a matching work to your control. But yeah, I thought we could just talk about each kind. So the first one is igneous rocks, and they are formed by cooling and hardening of molten rock, so magma or lava. Okay, so this is the kind here that I'm talking about. Igneous. I hope I'm saying it right. There, so those are the types that come from molten lava. And one that you might recognize right away is granite here, because a lot of us have, not a lot, some people have granite countertops and things like that. And then maybe also the obsidian, which is like that very black kind of lava, molten lava looking rock, has kind of that color and shape to it. So that's one type. And then we have the sedimentary rocks, and they're formed by eroded fragments of other rocks and even the remains of plants and animals. So these are rocks that have formed. I mean, all of the rocks have formed a lot over time, but the igneous rocks are like the original magma or lava, and then these are ones that have sedimentary, that have been pushed together and formed with decomposing animals and rocks being pushed together. And so here you can really see when you look at them, some of them have that formation where you can see a lot of different kind of rocks inside it that have been fused together through pressure and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Limestone is one that we use a lot in gravel. We have a big ability to mine, have mine limestones. Rock salt, sandstone. There's just all examples, but there you can see. And then the metamorphic rocks are formed from existing rocks by the action of heat and pressure and chemicals. So metamorphic rocks are like these. And so these are rocks that, again, also have come together. And you can see, like, here it has the strata of color. Marble is one where they've come together and formed. So yeah, so that's just some general idea. And then what you could do is, of course, is take a rock that you find outside or a rock that you have in your house and try to figure out, what category, what classification, what does it have of the different characteristics, or even try to look it up and figure out. So I think this one is a metamorphic rock because it looks like a lot like this gneiss rock here, like this one here. But it also, it could be something else. It could be maybe limestone with some color in it. It could be lots of different things. So it's fun to explore, and I'm still learning a lot about rocks. But I thought it'd be fun for you to look at and get into. And then I just have these rocks I wanted to share. This is amethyst, and it's the amethyst rock. So it's been mined, but then they've just cut it pretty on different angles so you can see the purple part. And so it's not really polished. It's still like a raw rock. But yeah, that's the amethyst. And then this one, I think, is a big piece of quartz. And maybe you have big rocks like this in your house. Maybe it's like a rose quartz. And it's been, there you can kind of see the layers. Just kind of neat. And if we wetted this one, it would become like a more intense pink. And also, like, all of these rocks, these are kind of the crude variations of rocks. And as they get polished, that's when you see all the beautiful colors, and that's when we have our precious gems. Maybe some of your parents have rings or jewelry with diamonds in them, or different rocks and stones. So there's always that you can explore as well and look into it. And later on in the lesson, we'll look at just cleaning our own rocks and figuring out how that goes and what it looks like. But for now, I wanted to read you this story, The Pebble in My Pocket. So if you want to get comfortable, that would be a good idea. A little bit long. And then I thought it'd be cool to just read the story and to have a rock or a pebble or with you. So if you want to stop right now and go get a rock, or if you brought a rock to the lesson, that'd be great. So I think it's kind of just like a neat thing to have it with us throughout the story. All right, so The Pebble in My Pocket. And it says, Pebble in My Pocket, The History of Earth. The pebble in my pocket is round and smooth and brown. I found it on the ground. Where did you come from, Pebble? Under the volcano, melted rock shifts like thick treacle. The molten rock is 9 times hotter than boiling water. The rocks covering the earth are cold and hard. They form a thin crust like a rind about 30 kilometers thick beneath the continents, but only 5 kilometers thick under the oceans. The deeper you go down inside the crust, the hotter it gets. Below the crust lies mantle rock, so hot it can start creeping and shifting and melting. The ground shakes. Gas hisses from top of the volcano. Columns of purple ash shoot into the sky. Glowing fragments hurl through the air. Then the lava comes, molten rocks spilling red hot down the volcano's sides and flowing out over the land. The lava cools. It hardens, forming a thick, wrinkled skin of new rock. Everything is still. The sea swarms with living things, but nothing is living on this land. It is 480 million years ago. So this is really just starting as the Earth is being formed, beginning of the Earth's formation, lots of volcanoes. Yeah. Slowly, very slowly, the surface of the Earth begins rising. The rock made from the lava begins to tilt up, slowly, very slowly. All the rocks underneath go up. Everything that happens to be on this piece of earth is rising. Huge slabs of rock tilt and twist. The land folds and buckles and crumples. Two great landmasses like giant plates are colliding, pushing against each other, making mountains. Every winter snow falls. Every summer the snow melts and the sun shines on the rocks. Heat makes the rocks expand. Cold makes them shrink. They expand and shrink, expand and shrink. Then they crack. Water seeps into the cracks in the rocks. On cold nights the water freezes. Clear crystals of ice push inside the cracks, wedging pieces of rock slowly apart. Rain falls on the mountains and runs down the rocks. Little leafless plants grow in damp places because now some things are living on the land. It is 395 million years ago. In the middle of the summer, in the middle of the night, an enormous slice of cliff splits away from the mountainside and crashes down, shattering into fragments. Pieces of rock rumble and bounce down the mountain like a river of stone. Rain falls on the new jagged edges of the rock, and the hot sun heats it, and the frost cools it. The wind blows every day. Tiny specks of sand below against the corners and edges of the rock, nibbling at their sharpness. Slowly, slowly, the sharp edges begin to be smoothed. Everything on the surface of the earth is slowly being eroded and broken down into smaller pieces. Boulders powder into streaks of mud. Cliffs crumble to grains of sand. The tops of mountains disintegrate into pebbles. It has always happened. It will always happen. It is happening now. All that is needed is time and the weather. Worm-like creatures burrow in the moss jungles, and millipedes shelter under the rock. It is 390 million years ago. The rain pours down, loosening the earth. Mud and rocks slide off the mountainside into a river. The river rushes along, dragging silt and sand, gravel, boulders, stripping away the mountain surface layer by layer. The river tumbles and rolls the rocks, chipping edges, smoothing corners, rubbing against the other rocks. Gradually the rocks become rounder, smaller. The river widens, flowing brown and slow. The current nudges the rocks past forests of ferns where spiders hide. It eases the rock through swamps where fish haul themselves out of the water and breathe the air. The rock travels for thousands and thousands of years. When it reaches the sea, it is smooth, round, brown pebble. It is 375 million years ago. Boulders and rocks embedded deep in the soil of the mountain look like permanent residents. They aren't. They are just passing through, like everything else, all the way to the bottom of the sea. There, you can see. The river drops the pebble onto a beach filled with other pebbles. The waves of the river wash them backwards and forwards, grinding them up and grinding them down, rattling and clinking the pebbles together. Stripy pebbles, spotted pebbles, gray, brown, and white pebbles. Each pebble has come from its own special rock. Each was made in its own special time and place. Shining grains of sand settle between the pebbles. The sand fills the spaces like the mixture between pieces of fruit in a pudding. Slowly the sea starts to flood the land. The sea covers the pebbles packed in their grains of sand. Gradually the sand hardens, forming a new layer of rock, a conglomerate, pudding stone rock. The sea covers the cliffs and drowns the mouth of the river and washes it into the forest. It is 340 million years ago. Creatures swarm and slither in the warm sea. The tiny bodies of dead sea creatures drift down onto the seabed. Layer upon layer, fine mud drifts down in sand, and each layer presses down the layers beneath, slowly harden, and the particles cement together to form more rocks, layers and layers of sedimentary rocks under the sea. The surface of the earth begins to rise, lifting the layers of rock to make new land above the water. Club moss trees crowd in dank swamps, and giant amphibians hunt amongst rotting wood and buzzing insects. But the pebble is still buried deep under the ground beneath layers of sandstone and mudstone and limestone. It is 300 million years ago. The surface of the Earth continues rising. It goes up 1 meter every 2,000 years. The layers of sandstone and limestone, mudstone, and conglomerate, which were once under the sea, are pushed up and up and up. They tilt and fold and crack. In 10 million years, they have risen 5,000 meters, and now there are seashells and the fossils of dead sea creatures on top of mountains. Dry winds blow sand from distant deserts. The layers of rock wear away as they always do, and in some places the rocks with the pebbles stuck in it begins to show through. It starts splitting and breaking into slabs. A slab tumbles down a cliff. A reptile with leathery wings and a long thin tail glides on the slab. A dinosaur with legs as big as tree trunks treads on the slab and cracks a lump off. It is 155 million years ago. At night, small mammals scuttle across the lump of rock while the dinosaurs sleep. In the day, they crouch under the rock while the dinosaurs hunt. Gradually, the mixture holding the pebbles together crumbles into grains of sand. The pebble is released. It is 67 million years ago. A meat-eating dinosaur attacks a plant-eating dinosaur, and in the fight, the pebble skids into a river. The pebbles settle on the sandbar with dinosaur bones and driftwood, drowned moths and flowers, because now there are flowers in this land. It is 65 million years ago. The river flows in a new course, and the pebble lies buried in the old river bed. The dinosaurs have long since died out. Now grass grows and herds of long-legged animals graze above the pebble. A furry two-horned rodent pushes past the pebble in its burrow. It is 50 million years ago. The wind blows colder and colder. Snow falls, blizzards blot out the light. The snow packs down layer on layer. Deep underneath the surface snow, the old snow turns into clear blue glacier ice. The glaciers start shifting, moving slowly downhill, grinding forward, a monstrous river of ice scraping across the land, scouring out valleys, sculpting mountains. The glaciers pick up and move everything in its way. It picks up the pebble and freezes it deep into its icy blue depths. The glacier grinds on for thousands and thousands of years, roaring and groaning as the thin ice slides and shifts. Its surface is split with shadowy crevices. Gradually, the weather begins to warm and the glacier begins to melt. The ice releases its grip. Boulders, rocks, pebbles, sand, gravel are all dropped on the ground, mixed together in great jumbled heaps. Old rocks, young rocks, rocks made under the sea, and rocks formed under the crust of the earth, rocks from close by and rocks from far, far away, all lie on top of each other. Everything has been moved from where it used to be. Mammoths lumber past. A baby mammoth treads on the pebble, pushing it deep into the heap of stones. It is 1 million years ago. Floods leave the pebbles high on a riverbank. People come to fish and hunt and build shelters. They stand on the pebble and sleep on it and drop grease from half-cooked lumps of meat. In the night, a rat creeps in, sniffing for food. A boy picks up the pebble to throw at the rat. He misses. The pebble rolls under a bush and down a hole. It is 200,000 years ago. The cold comes back. People move away. Massive ice sheets cover the land, burying forests and meadows. When warmth returns, the melting ice drops the pebble in a lake. It sinks into the soft mud while hippos wallow above in the warm water. It is 125,000 years ago. A new glacier gouges the pebble out of the bottom of the lake and pushes it collapsed into the clear blue depths for thousands and thousands of years. Then the ice retreats, leaving the pebble on the slope of a valley. Shaggy bison graze along grass. New people come hunting for food. Saber-toothed tigers watch. They can hunt what they like. It is 12,000 years ago. The pebble hasn't moved much since the last ice age. It has been kicked and trodden on by animals and people. Cattle have grazed over it, farmers have grown crops on it, a new road runs near it. Houses are built next to the road, and their foundations cover rocks and earth, pebbles and gravel. But the houses miss the pebble. It lies smooth and warm in the sun. The pebble in my pocket is round and smooth and brown. I found it on the ground. My pebble has been on top of mountains and under the sea. It has been buried in ice and buried in rock. It has been covered in drying sand and tropical forest. It has been flung and dropped, frozen, soaked and baked, squeezed and squashed. It has been stood on and sheltered under and used. It has traveled huge distances over immense periods of time. My pebble is 480 million years old. So far, keep traveling, pebble. Every pebble in the world is different from every other pebble. Every pebble has its own story. Pick up a pebble, and you are holding a little piece of the history of our planet. The end. And then there's this cool picture, or yeah, it kind of shows the different ages. But we'll talk about dinosaurs, and we'll talk more about that. So I hope you liked that story. I know it's a really long story, but hopefully now when you look at a pebble or a rock or stone, you can kind of think about all of it's been through, how old it is, how much history it has, and how cool that is. Okay, so that's mine, and I hope you liked it. All right, so let's go into our math today. So I'm just going to quickly grab some of my copy. All right. Okay, so last week we looked at our unit, our 10 bar, our golden beads, right? So we looked at these last week. And then this week we're just going to continue onwards with that. So I have sent home this activity, and I hope you guys will recognize it a little bit because it's something that we used to do quite a bit in class. So again, we have our written ones and our numeric ones. So to start, we'll just use these numbers, these type of numbers, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to cut out a few of them, okay? So I have 4 here. So I have the number, what number is this one? 321, yeah. And then I have the number, this one, 27, good. I have the number 257, and the number 85, great. So then what you're going to do is you're going to look at your picture cards, and you're going to try to match them to the number, okay? So if I look at this one, okay, so right away I can see, I hope it's not too small for you to see, but I have how many 100 squares? So I have 1, 2, 200 squares, and I thought I had about doing this actually would be a little bit easier and maybe more concrete, is to write it out on paper as you're doing it. So let me just grab a paper. Okay, so as you're looking at your pictures, you can just write it down. So how many hundreds do I have? I have 2 hundreds. Okay, so I'm going to write a 2. And then how many 10s do I have? So let's count my 10s. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 10s. So my 5 comes after my 10s comes after my 100. And then how many units do I have? So let me count them. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my units come after my tens. So the final number I have is 2 hundredths, 5 tens, and 7 units. And if I'm looking, I have this number here that says the same thing, 200, 5 tens and 7 units, or 257. So here I'm going to put these together because they go together, okay? All right, so let's do it again. With this one. Okay, so this one, do I have any hundreds? No. Do I have any thousand cubes? No. Okay, so I'm starting with my tens. So how many tens do I have? I have 2 tens. And then how many units do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so my number is 2 tens and 7 units, or I can say it's number 27. So those two go together. Let's do one more. All right, so if I look at this one, how many hundreds do I have? Can you guys count them? Yeah, I have 1, 2, 3. So I have 3 hundredths. And then how many tens do I have? 1, 2, 2 tens. And how many units? 1 unit. So I have 3 hundredths, 2 tens, and 1 unit. And if I look at my cards, look, I have this one, 321. So those go together. Okay, and then my last one here, I don't have any hundreds. I'll close my marker. I don't have any hundreds, but I have lots of tens. So let me count my tens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 tens. And how many units? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 8 tens and 5 units is the same as 85, right? Great. So it might seem a little challenging right now at the beginning, but the more you practice, the easier it'll get, and it's very similar to just when we count the golden beads in class, which you guys were all getting lessons on or starting to get lessons on. And then as you can continue, you can start also reading them and matching them to the words, okay? And then of course there's also ones with thousands. I just didn't print any of those off, so please feel free to work with those as well, and you can make out a big chart, you could glue them up, you could do all sorts of things, play a hand game with them, whatever you want. Okay. All right, so moving on with our language. So today we're going to look at singular and plural, okay? So singular and plural. And there's lots of different ways of things becoming plural. So if I have one rock, and then I have 3 rocks, then I have rocks, right? So if I just have one, that's singular, rock, and then I have more than one, I have rocks. And so a lot of pluralization occurs by putting a sus sound at the end of the word. However, there are some words that when they become plural, they change inside the word. So we're going to look at those today. So I'm going to put out these. Okay, so I have the word goose, and I have the word, so these are all singular ones. So I'm going to put all my singular ones first. Foot, and man, and mouse, and shoe. Okay, I think those are the ones we're going to work with. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the plural of these ones. So I have goose, foot, man, mouse, and shoe. So if you see more than one goose, what do you have? What do you have if you see more than one goose? What do we call it? We call it geese. That's right. So when we have more than one goose, we say geese. So the plural of goose is geese. Okay, and then I have foot. So I have 1 foot, and then I have 2 foots. I don't have foots, I have feet. You have 2 feet. So the plural of foot is feet. Okay, if I have one man, one Lego man, and then I have more than one Lego man, I have Lego men, or men. Yeah. So men. And then I have mouse. So if I have more than one mouse, I don't just have mouses, I have mice. So when you see more than one mouse, you have mice. And then the last one is that if I have my tooth, whoops, I have one tooth, I have a tooth, and if I have more than one tooth, I have teeth. So the plural of tooth is teeth. Oh, sorry. Plural of tooth is teeth. Okay, so that's a little bit of the singular and plural when it changes internally. So when inside the word changes, all right? So I hope you have fun exploring with that, and it kind of grows your sense of how those words change. And I will send it to you, and there's a few other plural activities, pluralization activities in that, so please feel free to practice all of them and work on them, okay? All right, and then last week we did a fun thing with some spelling, so hopefully this week you are up for that again. So today we're going to do the t and the h, so the th sound, okay? So take your pencil and paper, and I'm going to read 5 words that start with the t and the h. So all of the words you're writing, the first 2 sounds you're going to write is the t and the h. And if you don't do it in cursive, that's fine. You can just do it in print, okay? And we'll just try to sound out and hear the sounds. Okay, so the first one is that. The, at, that. The second one is thirst. Thirst. The third one is thick. Thick. The fourth one is then. Then. And the last one is a sight word, but you see it a lot. It's the word the. Okay? All right, my friends. So I hope you got to write those, and then you can show it to your grown-ups, and they can see if you spelled the words properly, if you found the right sounds, and then maybe you need help finding some other sounds that are missing. Yeah, so enjoy that. Okay, I'm proud of you for trying, right? If it feels hard, it just means that your brain is growing and you're learning new things, and that's okay. We all need to learn new things and grow our minds in that way. Okay, and then we're just going to do a little bit of our rock cleaning, and I was going to show you how I like to do that. So finding rocks outside is so fun. I think it's a great activity to do. And in our story thing today, we're going to, in our story thing today, we're going to paint some rocks. I'm going to read you the story Petra that I read in class a few times. So basically for this one, it's like so simple, but you're just putting a rock outside. And then I like to use a toothbrush because a toothbrush allows, just like when you're brushing your teeth, it allows to get into the little grooves and into the little dents. So I just have water in here, plain water in my jug, and then I'm just liking to scrub on my rock, get all the dirt off of it, and really get it clean. So you can do this with like big rocks outside, and you don't need to use any soap or anything. You just can use your rock, just use your water, and it can be warm water. And then right away you can start seeing the different colors in the rock, and maybe trying to figure out what type of rock it is, or thinking about how far this rock traveled or where it came from. I have another rock in my dish, and I already was washing a little bit. You can see if I dry it, you can see all the different layers to it, which is really neat. And so these are like, you could clean your rocks and then let them dry outside in the sun. And then in our next lesson, I'll show you some rocks that I've painted and go from there. Okay, my friends. I think that's all for our lesson today. And the second video will have those things in it. I hope you enjoyed thinking about rocks and learning some stuff from that wicked story. And okay, so let's say goodbye with my heart to your heart. I love you. Have a great day. And to all my friends in our lessons, connected, our rainbow. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video.